While you're busy watching someone else's life, your own is slipping through your fingers. Think about that. Every second you spend comparing, scrolling, judging, or wishing you had what they have, those are seconds stolen from your potential. You weren't born to be a copy, you were born to be the original blueprint. But as long as your eyes are fixed on others, your vision for yourself remains blurry. You can't build a masterpiece while you're staring at someone else's canvas. Their journey is not your destination. Their pace is not your race. You don't know the full story behind their success. The sleepless nights, the setbacks, the silence they had to endure to shine. And even if you did, it still wouldn't change what you need to do. Because your greatness lies not in imitation, but in creation. Your creation. You're busy watching someone else's life, your own is quietly slipping away. Every second you spend comparing yourself to someone else is a second you're not building your own future. It's a subtle form of self-sabotage, because it disguises itself as motivation, when in reality, it's a distraction dressed up as inspiration. The problem with constantly looking at other people's lives, whether it's their highlight reels on social media, their accomplishments, or their lifestyle, is that it pulls your attention away from where it belongs, on you. You can't grow when your eyes are fixed outward. You can't build something lasting when your focus is fractured. Your time, your energy, your attention, they are your most valuable resources. And when those are being used to watch, compare, or envy someone else's journey, you're leaking power. Think about it. How often do you scroll through your phone and come across someone who looks like they have it all together? The success, the looks, the lifestyle, and immediately, without even realizing it, you start to feel less than. You start questioning your own progress, your own path. You start to feel behind. But behind what? There's no universal timeline. There's no scoreboard in life where everyone's playing the same game. What you're doing is trying to measure your worth with someone else's ruler, and it was never made to fit you. You're looking at someone else's chapter 20 while you're still writing your chapter 5 and then wondering why it doesn't add up. It won't. It can't. Because it's not supposed to. Your path was designed specifically for you. Your timeline, your setbacks, your lessons, they're all part of something much bigger than a social comparison. But if you spend your energy constantly watching others, you miss the opportunity to fully live and embrace your own journey. You give away your power piece by piece without even realizing it. It's not just about time wasted, it's about potential wasted. Every hour you spend fixated on what others have is an hour you could have spent building something for yourself, learning a new skill, working on your goals, healing, improving, becoming. That's where your transformation lives. In the focused, quiet work you do when nobody is watching. The harsh truth is, while you're distracted by others, someone else is focused on their own growth and getting ahead. They're not scrolling, they're studying. They're not comparing, they're creating. And that's what separates those who wish from those who win. It's not about talent, luck, or opportunity. It's about focus, laser focus. The kind of focus that says, I don't care what they're doing, I care what I'm doing. That kind of mindset is rare, and it's powerful, because it means you're no longer living reactively. You're living intentionally. You're no longer letting the world decide how you feel about yourself. You're deciding for yourself, based on the work you're putting in and the progress you're making. Even if no one sees it yet, you know what you're building, and that's all that matters. When you allow your attention to constantly drift to the lives of others, you build someone else's dream instead of your own. You start chasing things that may look good on the outside but have nothing to do with your purpose. You begin to lose your identity in someone else's image. And that's the fastest way to lose your fire. Because you weren't made to follow, you were made to lead. At least in your own life. You can't lead anything if your focus is scattered. You can't lead if you're too distracted to hear your own thoughts, your own intuition, your own drive calling you to move forward. You have to understand that everyone's journey is different, and trying to match your path with someone else's is like trying to fit into a story that was never written for you. We live in a world obsessed with comparison, constantly measuring ourselves against others, how fast they're moving, how far they've gone, what they've achieved. But this is a trap that blinds you to your own direction. Just because someone else appears to be ahead doesn't mean they're heading where you're meant to go. And even if their success looks perfect on the surface, you don't truly know the price they paid to get there. You don't see the sacrifices, the sleepless nights, the silent struggles, the moments of doubt they had to face alone. You're only seeing the result, not the road. And their road was not built for your feet. Trying to replicate someone else's path is like wearing shoes that don't fit, uncomfortable, painful, and eventually unsustainable. It creates frustration because you're constantly trying to force alignment where there is none, and the more you force it, the more disconnected you feel from your own identity. You start questioning your instincts, doubting your progress, and dismissing the things that actually matter to you, all because someone else appears to be doing it better or faster. But their idea of success might not be yours. Their goals, their dreams, their definition of fulfillment could be entirely different. And yet, by chasing what they have, you abandon what could have been yours. Life isn't a race where everyone runs the same course at the same time. It's a personal journey filled with unique timing, lessons, and seasons. Some people bloom early, others bloom late. Some find clarity fast, others wander for years before discovering their purpose. But the timing doesn't matter, the commitment does. If you stay true to your own path and trust its timing, you will get where you need to go. But you must stop comparing your behind the scenes to someone else's highlight reel. Stop judging your day one against their year 10. What you're building might not be visible yet, but that doesn't mean it's not valuable. And just because it's taking time doesn't mean it's not working. There's something powerful about honoring your own pace. When you stop obsessing over where everyone else is going, you can finally hear the quiet voice within that's been trying to guide you. That voice doesn't shout. It whispers through your passions, your ideas, your discomfort, your curiosity. But you can't hear it when you're too busy listening to the noise outside. You miss your calling when you're too busy echoing someone else's. And the more you follow others, the further you drift from your own truth. Your journey is meant to be yours alone. That's what makes it meaningful. The setbacks, the detours, the unique moments of breakthrough, they're not mistakes, they're markers. They shape you into someone who's not just successful, but solid. Someone who doesn't crumble under pressure because their foundation was built through real experience. And that kind of strength isn't found in imitation, it's found in authenticity. You won't find peace trying to walk in someone else's lane. You find it when you accept that your timing, your growth, your victories will look different, and that's exactly how it's supposed to be. The moment you stop trying to keep up with others and start walking your own walk with purpose, everything starts to align. Comparison kills gratitude. It kills progress. It poisons the mind in silence, slowly replacing appreciation with anxiety, confidence with insecurity, and clarity with confusion. It begins so subtly you barely notice it. A quick glance at someone else's success, a fleeting thought about how much further along they are, a moment of envy that disguises itself as motivation. But that seed of comparison grows fast. Before you know it, you're not proud of your own progress anymore. You're not thankful for what you have. You're not focused on what you can do. Instead, you're trapped in a cycle of looking left and right, measuring your value based on what others are doing, and constantly feeling like you're not enough. The moment you start comparing your journey to someone else's, you start losing control of your own direction. You forget that life isn't linear. You forget that everyone is working with a different set of circumstances, experiences, resources, and timing. You might think someone is ahead, but you don't know what they've sacrificed. You might think someone is winning, but you don't know what battles they're fighting behind the scenes. And even if their progress is real, it has nothing to do with your worth. Their rise doesn't equal your fall. Their shine doesn't dim your light. But comparison will make you believe otherwise. It will have you chasing after standards that don't belong to you and neglecting the value of what's right in front of you. Gratitude is your anchor, and comparison is the storm that pulls it loose. When you're grateful, you're grounded. You can see clearly. You're aware of your own blessings, your own growth, and the lessons that have shaped you. You're able to celebrate your wins, no matter how small. But comparison steals that from you. It makes every win feel like it's not enough. It tells you that unless you're ahead of someone else, you're behind. It robs your ability to recognize the power in your own story. And when that happens, your progress slows. Not because you're incapable, but because your mind is no longer on your journey. It's lost in theirs. You begin making decisions not based on your goals, but based on trying to keep up. You take actions that are reactive instead of purposeful. You lose your passion because you're not doing it for yourself anymore. You're doing it to prove something to people who probably aren't even watching. And even if they are, what are you proving? That you can chase their life better than you can live your own? That's a race with no finish line and no reward. Because no matter how much you achieve, it will never feel like enough if you're measuring it against someone else's accomplishments. Progress requires focus. It requires consistency, clarity, and self-belief. And you cannot build those things while constantly comparing yourself to others. You cannot grow in gratitude if you're always chasing someone else's version of success. You have to take a step back and remind yourself what you've already overcome. Remind yourself of where you started, how far you've come, and what you've learned along the way. That's your truth. That's your power. And when you focus on that, you move forward. You move with intention. You move with joy. You'll never appreciate your life if you're always staring at someone else's. You'll never fully develop your potential if your mind is preoccupied with what others are doing. But when you take that attention back, when you put the focus on your own journey, your own values, your own progress, that's when real momentum begins. Every ounce of energy you give to watching someone else's life is energy stolen from your own transformation. The truth is, the most powerful shift you can make is turning your focus inward, redirecting your attention away from what others are doing and placing it squarely on you, on your habits, on your thoughts, on your discipline, on the way you talk to yourself when no one's around. That's where the real work begins. That's where change happens. Not in the noise of the outside world, but in the quiet conversations you have with yourself when you're honest about who you are and who you want to become. It's easy to look at someone else and think they've got it all figured out. It's tempting to believe that if you had what they have, you'd feel fulfilled. But fulfillment doesn't come from imitation. It comes from alignment, when your actions match your values, when your goals reflect who you truly are, and when you stop living based on what you think will impress others. Redirecting your energy inward means making a decision to stop running from your insecurities and start facing them, to stop masking your fears with distractions and start doing the work that matters. It's not glamorous, it's not always visible, but it's real. Improvement is not about massive overnight changes. It's about consistently showing up for yourself, even when no one is watching. It's in the choice to wake up a little earlier to work on your goals. It's in choosing to read instead of scrolling. It's in taking care of your body, not to impress anyone else, but because you deserve to feel strong, clear, and capable. These small decisions, repeated over time, lead to massive growth. But they require one thing above all: focus. And not just any focus. Internal focus. The kind that isn't swayed by trends or popularity, but driven by purpose. When you start pouring your energy into developing yourself, you begin to notice things shift. Your thoughts become sharper, your confidence grows, not because of external praise, but because you've earned your own respect. You begin to build a foundation so solid that outside noise can't shake it. And the more time you spend on your growth, the less time you have to waste on meaningless comparison. You start to realize that you don't need to compete, because you're building something that's entirely your own. You also begin to take responsibility at a deeper level. You stop blaming others for your circumstances. You stop waiting for the right time or the perfect motivation. You realize that you are in control of how far you go, that no one is coming to rescue you or push you. It's on you to build the life you want. That might feel heavy at first, but it's also incredibly freeing, because once you own your growth, you own your power. No one can take that away from you. It's not dependent on followers, likes, or approval. It comes from within. It's yours. Self-focus isn't selfish, it's necessary. It's what allows you to show up in the world with strength, with clarity, with purpose. It gives you the ability to influence others not through comparison or competition, but through authenticity. And when you lead from that place, people feel it. They're drawn to it. Because it's rare. Most people are distracted, scattered, reactive. But not you. Not when you make the choice to redirect your energy inward, to build something that no one can see yet, but that you know is growing stronger by the day. That choice is where everything begins to change. The real transformation doesn't happen when people are watching. It happens in silence, in the quiet moments when no one is around to applaud you, when there's no spotlight, no praise, no validation. That's where your character is built. It's in the decision to keep showing up when it's boring, when it's hard, when it feels like nothing's changing. The world celebrates the results, the highlight reel, the before and after story. But what it never sees is the grind, the daily repetition, the quiet sacrifices, the internal battles. And that's the part that actually makes the difference. Growth doesn't announce itself. It's subtle. It's waking up a few minutes earlier than you used to and doing something meaningful with that time. It's saying no to distractions that used to control you. It's choosing a difficult truth over an easy lie. It's holding yourself accountable in ways you never did before. No one will clap for these things. No one will post about them. But they matter. They are the building blocks of a life that's not just successful on the outside, but solid and unshakable on the inside. Every time you choose discipline over comfort, you plant a seed. And even though that seed doesn't sprout overnight, it's growing. You might not see it yet, but the foundation is being laid, day by day, choice by choice. When you commit to these unseen efforts, something inside you begins to shift. You stop relying on motivation, and you start developing consistency. You stop waiting for the perfect moment, and you begin trusting the power of your habits, and slowly, the results begin to show. But only after you've done the work in the dark. That's the part most people skip. They want the rewards, but they don't want the silence. They want the applause, but they don't want the hours of solitude where the real growth happens. You have to be different. You have to fall in love with the parts of the process no one else values. The early mornings, the late nights, the uncomfortable conversations with yourself, the brutal honesty required to admit where you've been slacking, where you've been hiding, where you've been settling. That's the real work. And when you commit to it, you stop living for the opinions of others and start building a version of yourself that you respect. Progress isn't loud. It's not always exciting. Sometimes it looks like discipline that no one acknowledges. Sometimes it feels like effort without immediate results. But those are the moments that count the most. They test your commitment. They ask you if you really mean it, you really want it. If you're willing to stay the course when no one is watching, when no one is cheering you on, when quitting would be easy. And if you can keep going in those moments, you become unstoppable. Not because you're better than anyone else, but because you're consistent in a way most people aren't. You begin to develop a kind of confidence that can't be faked. It doesn't come from compliments. It doesn't come from trophies. It comes from knowing you did what needed to be done, even when it was hard, even when it was thankless. That confidence follows you everywhere. It shows up in the way you speak, the way you carry yourself, the way you make decisions. Because you know something most people don't. That strength isn't built in front of an audience. It's built in the background, brick by brick, in silence. And that kind of strength lasts forever. You're not in competition. You're on a mission. And the moment you truly understand that, everything changes. The pressure to prove something to others disappears. The urge to measure your success by someone else's timeline fades. You stop chasing approval, and instead, you start chasing purpose. That shift is powerful, because most people are caught in a never-ending race, constantly comparing, constantly trying to keep up, constantly feeling like they're behind. But there is no behind when the only person you're trying to beat is who you were yesterday. There is no race when you're building something that's yours, something that isn't defined by the world's standards, but by your own. Every second spent trying to outshine someone else is a second taken away from shining in your own lane. People waste their energy competing, copying, and comparing, and they wonder why they feel empty. It's because they've disconnected from their mission. They've forgotten why they started in the first place. But when you're truly on a mission, when you're connected to a deep, personal reason for why you do what you do, the noise fades. The distractions lose their power. You don't need to keep up with anyone else because you're locked in on your own direction. A mission gives you clarity. It gives you focus. It keeps you grounded when life gets chaotic and uncertain. You don't need to prove anything to anyone. You're not here to impress people. You're here to impact your own life, to evolve, to grow, to master your craft, to walk your path with intention. Let them talk. Let them flash their success. Let them try to compete. That's not your game. You're not here for the attention. You're here for the results. You're not here to be seen. You're here to become. And that's the difference between someone who's focused and someone who's distracted. The distracted person looks outward, always trying to outdo others, always trying to look like they've made it. The focused person looks inward, constantly asking, how can I improve? What's my next move? What am I building? That inward focus is the edge. That's what creates long-term growth and unshakable confidence. It's the quiet power that doesn't need to scream because it speaks through action. You don't need to respond to every challenge with noise. Sometimes the best answer is progress. Sometimes the loudest message is silence and consistency. While others are showing off, you're showing up. While they're trying to impress, you're trying to improve. That's how you win, not by trying to beat them, but by outgrowing who you used to be. That's the real competition. That's the only battle that matters. And it's the one you can win every single day by choosing growth over ego, purpose over pride, discipline over distraction. You don't need anyone to validate your mission. You don't need a crowd to cheer you on. You just need to stay committed, even when it's quiet, even when no one's watching. That's where your greatness is forged. In the repetition, in the intention, in the commitment to evolve no matter who's paying attention. That's what separates those who rise from those who remain stuck. Not talent, not luck, but a relentless commitment to walk their own path with purpose. When you're on a mission, you stop competing with people and start collaborating with your vision. You wake up with intention, you act with discipline, you grow with humility, and because of that, you become unstoppable. Not because you beat everyone else, but because you refused to stop becoming the best version of yourself. That's the power of purpose. That's what happens when you focus not on the crowd, but on the calling.